Everything unraveled in a single instant. The kind of moment that doesn't just shake a relationship, it detonates everything around it. Reputations, trust, carefully built images, all of it suddenly hanging by a thread. What was once a private life, quietly guarded from the public eye, reportedly exploded into chaos when a DNA test surfaced, an alleged revelation so shocking that it sent ripples through the entire industry almost overnight. At first, it didn't seem like much, just whispers, subtle mentions buried in comment sections. Then came the screenshots, unverified, unclear, but spreading fast. Within hours, speculation turned into a wildfire, consuming timelines and dominating conversations. According to circulating claims, none officially confirmed but impossible to ignore, the results of that test pointed to something nobody saw coming. Something that immediately raised uncomfortable questions about loyalty, truth, and a connection that had long been rumored but never proven. And just when it felt like the situation couldn't escalate any further, it did. Because silence was never part of the story. Reports began to surface that his wife didn't hold back, that she confronted him directly, face to face, in a moment charged with emotion. What started as a conversation allegedly spiraled into something far more intense. Voices raised, accusations thrown, the kind of confrontation that had clearly been building beneath the surface for far longer than anyone realized. Whatever was said in that moment, it didn't stay contained. It couldn't. Behind the tension, insiders suggest this wasn't just about one incident. It was about layers, secrets, doubts, unanswered questions that had been quietly stacking up over time. Months, maybe even years of things left unsaid, hidden behind public appearances and controlled narratives. And if even a fraction of these claims holds weight, then this isn't just a personal conflict. It's something much bigger, something that cuts deeper than a single moment. Now the internet is split. Some believe this is being exaggerated, another case of rumors spiraling out of control without real evidence. Others are convinced this is only the beginning, that what's surfaced so far is just a glimpse into a much larger story waiting to unfold. Every new post, every leaked detail, every vague reaction adds fuel to the fire. Confusion turns into debate. Debate turns into division. And at the center of it all is one question that refuses to go away. What actually happened behind closed doors? To understand how things reached this breaking point, you have to go back. Before the confrontation, before the alleged DNA test, before the rumors became impossible to ignore. Because moments like this don't just appear out of nowhere. They build, slowly, quietly, until something finally forces everything into the open. 21 Savage has never been an artist who lives loudly in the public eye when it comes to his personal life. His story has always been defined by transformation, rising from a difficult past into global recognition, building not just a career but an identity rooted in control, discipline, and privacy. That restraint became part of his image, calm, focused, guarded. And that's exactly why this situation feels so explosive. Because when someone known for keeping everything locked down suddenly becomes the center of personal controversy, the reaction is immediate and intense. People don't just watch, they analyze, they question, they try to connect dots even when the full picture isn't there. From the outside, his relationship always appeared stable, strong, even. Public appearances painted a clear image, unity, loyalty, a quiet sense of balance. But according to those now speaking out, appearances don't always reflect reality. Subtle cracks, they claim, may have been present long before any of this reached the public. Then there's Latto, an artist whose presence in the industry has been impossible to ignore. Bold, confident, constantly in motion. She's no stranger to attention, whether it's for her music or the conversations that follow her. And at different points, fans began noticing what they believed were interactions between the two artists. Nothing confirmed, nothing officially acknowledged, but in the absence of clarity, speculation filled the gaps. And once speculation begins, it rarely stays small. Screenshots start circulating, some real, some impossible to verify, Old videos resurface, suddenly viewed through a completely different lens. Comments that once meant nothing are dissected, analyzed, turned into evidence by an audience determined to find meaning. Over time, what started as casual curiosity evolved into full-scale theory building. Online communities didn't just talk about it, they built timelines, connected moments, questioned inconsistencies, created narratives that felt real even without confirmation. Meanwhile, both artists continued forward. Music dropped, appearances continued. Nude, public images remained intact. But beneath that surface, according to ongoing claims, tension may have been growing quietly. Not visible, not public, but present. And then came the alleged DNA test. This wasn't just another rumor to scroll past. This was different, because if true, it wasn't something that could be ignored or explained away. It demanded confrontation. It demanded answers. But it didn't arrive through any official channel. No statement, no confirmation, just leaks, the kind that spread faster than facts, reaching millions before anyone could verify what was real and what wasn't. And once it was out there, everything shifted. Suddenly, people started pulling back, distancing. Conversations reportedly became strained. Trust, once assumed, began to erode under the weight of uncertainty. What had once been private started becoming unpredictable and increasingly public. At the same time, the internet did what it always does. It went backward. Old interviews were rewatched, old posts re-examined, lyrics were analyzed for hidden meaning. Every glance, every interaction, every word was reinterpreted in light of the new narrative. Whether intentional or not, everything became part of the story. And as the noise grew louder, so did the pressure. Because once a situation like this takes hold online, it doesn't fade. It expands. It evolves. It pulls in more voices, more opinions, more assumptions with every passing moment. Some insiders now claim that the signs were there long before any of this surfaced. Small inconsistencies, subtle shifts, details that didn't seem important at first but slowly began forming a pattern. Those patterns led to questions. Questions led to private conversations. And those conversations eventually led to confrontation. The moment where everything reportedly collided. But what makes this situation even heavier isn't just the headlines or the speculation. It's the emotional weight underneath it all. Because beyond the rumors, beyond the viral posts, this is about something far more personal. Trust, loyalty, the kind of betrayal, real or perceived, that doesn't just disappear, even when explanations come later. According to ongoing chatter, the relationship may have already been changing long before the public caught on. Communication strained, distance growing, unspoken concerns building quietly in the background. So when the alleged DNA test entered the picture, it didn't just introduce new questions. It may have confirmed fears that had been there all along. And in moments like that, there's no calm resolution, no easy explanation, just raw, immediate reaction, the kind that can't be undone once it begins. They're explosive, emotional, irreversible. And as this story continues to unfold, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. This didn't come out of nowhere. It didn't just suddenly happen. It was built slowly, piece by piece, moment by moment, until everything finally reached a breaking point that could no longer be contained. And what happened next? That's where things take a much darker turn. Because the confrontation itself, the moment everything reportedly came to a head, may have revealed far more than the alleged DNA test ever did. According to insider accounts, the breaking point didn't happen in some public setting. There were no cameras, no microphones, no audience, just a private space, ordinary on the surface but filled with tension that had been building for far too long. A moment where emotions weren't filtered and nothing could be hidden anymore. Reports claim that his wife didn't walk into that moment unprepared. By then, she had allegedly already seen fragments of the DNA test, pieces of information that, when put together, painted a picture she could no longer ignore. And when she finally confronted him, it wasn't calm. It wasn't cautious. It was immediate, direct, and emotionally charged. What started as a single question, simple on the surface, reportedly shattered everything. Is it true? That moment, according to those claiming inside knowledge, changed the entire tone of the conversation. What followed wasn't clarity, it was tension, denial, confusion, responses that didn't resolve anything. Instead, they made everything worse. Voices reportedly rose, words became sharper, and within minutes, what began as a conversation turned into a full-scale confrontation neither side could control. At the center of it all were those alleged DNA results, unverified screenshots already spreading online, already shaping public opinion. Claims began circulating that the test pointed toward a connection involving Latto. Nothing confirmed, nothing officially acknowledged. But in today's world, that doesn't slow anything down, it accelerates it. Almost instantly, the internet erupted. Fans began dissecting everything. Timelines were rebuilt from scratch. Old interactions were replayed, reanalyzed, and reframed under this new narrative. Moments that once seemed meaningless D. Denley looked suspicious. Every detail became part of the puzzle, whether it belonged there or not. Meanwhile, the confrontation reportedly intensified behind closed doors. Insiders claim this wasn't just anger, it was disbelief, betrayal, a reaction that suggested this moment wasn't about one incident but about something deeper, something that had been building for a long time. And that's where the first major twist starts to emerge. Because according to one particularly controversial claim, the DNA test wasn't the real trigger. It was the confirmation. Some reports suggest there were already underlying issues, private conversations, unspoken concerns, subtle signs that something wasn't right long before any test entered the picture. If that's true, then this wasn't a sudden explosion. It was the result of pressure building quietly over time, waiting for something to bring it all to the surface. And when it finally did, everything collided at once. The argument reportedly shifted quickly, from questions to accusations, from confusion to conflict. At one point, unverified accounts even claimed the situation escalated so intensely that others nearby had to step in, either to calm things down or prevent it from going further. Whether that's accurate or not, one thing is clear from every version of the story. The emotional intensity reached a level that couldn't be contained anymore. And even after the confrontation ended, the damage didn't. Because moments like that don't just disappear. The words linger, the emotions echo, and the way people see each other afterward changes, sometimes permanently. Following the incident, sources claim communication broke down almost immediately. Messages reportedly went unanswered, calls avoided, silence took over, but this wasn't the same silence as before. This wasn't privacy, this was distance. But the story didn't stay private for long. Because as soon as details of the confrontation began leaking online, everything shifted again, this time into full public view. Screenshots started circulating. Anonymous accounts began posting insider claims. Threads appeared, each one offering a different version of the story. And within hours, what had been a private situation turned into a global conversation. Fans picked sides instantly. Some defended 21 Savage, arguing that nothing had been proven and that the entire situation was being blown out of proportion. Others pointed to the alleged DNA leaks as evidence, insisting that too many details lined up to be ignored. And then there were those who questioned everything, suggesting the entire narrative could be manipulated, misunderstood, or completely false. But through all the noise, one thing stayed consistent. Nothing was resolved. And just when it seemed like the confrontation had already delivered its peak moment, a second twist began to surface, one that could completely change how this entire situation is understood. because new claims started emerging about the DNA test itself. According to fresh leaks, the results being shared online may not have been official or complete. Instead, they were described as fragments, partial screenshots, out-of-context documents, and interpretations that spread before anyone could verify their accuracy. And that's where things became even more complicated. Multiple versions of the results reportedly began circulating. Some claimed confirmation, others suggested the findings were inconclusive, and a few went even further, questioning whether the test itself had been properly verified at all. Instead of providing clarity, these contradictions only made everything more confusing. Now the story wasn't just controversial, it was unstable. At the same time, the narrative surrounding Latto intensified rapidly. Her name began trending across platforms as speculation grew. Despite no official confirmation, fans dug through old clips, interviews, and interactions, trying to connect dots that may not even belong together. And then came the social media explosion. Viral threads, unverified but widely shared, started shaping the narrative in real time. One post claimed, "This isn't just about a test. It's about timing, communication, and things people ignored for too long." Another suggested the confrontation wasn't spontaneous at all. It was the result of weeks of tension building behind the scenes. Whether real or not, those claims spread fast. And once they did, they took on a life of their own. At the same time, industry chatter reportedly began to shift. People close to the situation allegedly started pulling back, some avoiding public comment entirely, others offering vague statements about respecting privacy without addressing anything directly. But in situations like this, silence doesn't calm the storm. It fuels it. Because without clear answers, curiosity grows, speculation deepens, and more people get pulled into the conversation, each adding their own interpretation to a story that's still unfolding in real time. What started as a private confrontation has now become something much bigger. A full-scale debate. Some believe it's all being exaggerated for attention. Others are convinced there's too much alignment for it to be coincidence. And as the story continues to evolve, one reality becomes harder to ignore. This isn't just about what happened. It's about what people believe happened. And right now, those two things couldn't be further apart. Meanwhile, whatever happened behind closed doors didn't just end with that confrontation. It left a mark that reportedly changed everything moving forward. According to sources, trust between 21 Savage and his wife may have been deeply shaken. Communication slowed. Conversations became shorter, more careful, and the connection that once looked stable from the outside started showing cracks that could no longer be ignored. But then the story takes an even deeper turn. Because one of the most shocking claims to surface isn't just about betrayal, it's about timing. Insiders now suggest that parts of the alleged DNA narrative don't fully line up with the timeline people originally believed. And that inconsistency raises a dangerous possibility. Either the information being shared publicly is incomplete, or key details are still being kept hidden. If that's true, then everything the public has been reacting to might only be a fraction of the real story. And that leads to one question that keeps getting louder. What exactly hasn't been revealed yet? As speculation continues to grow, new claims are surfacing almost daily. Each one adds another layer, sometimes clarity, sometimes confusion. Some reports suggest there were additional conversations after the confrontation. Others claim third parties may have been involved behind the scenes, and a few even hint that more information could surface soon, something that might completely reshape the narrative again. But right now, nothing is confirmed. Just rumors, leaks, fragments of a story still coming together. And with every passing hour, the situation becomes more unpredictable. Because stories like this don't unfold all at once. The truth doesn't drop in a single moment. It reveals itself slowly, piece by piece, often when people least expect it. And just when the public thought they had a basic understanding, a new wave of reactions began to take over. Now the internet isn't just watching, it's divided. Within hours of the alleged DNA leak and confrontation reports, social media turned into a battlefield. Platforms like X, Instagram, and TikTok were flooded with reactions. Videos, breakdown threads, deep dives, everyone trying to make sense of a story that still has no official version. And almost instantly, people split into two sides. On one side, supporters of 21 Savage argue that this entire situation is being blown out of proportion. They point out that everything being discussed is based on unverified leaks, anonymous sources, and screenshots that could easily be edited or taken out of context. Their message is simple: slow down, wait for facts, and don't destroy reputations based on speculation. On the other side, critics aren't convinced. They argue that the consistency of the rumors is too strong to ignore. Similar claims appearing across multiple platforms, repeated patterns in the narrative. It's enough in their eyes to suggest that something real is happening behind the scenes. And then there's the name that keeps coming up again and again: Latto. Despite no official confirmation linking her directly to any of these claims, her name continues to dominate the conversation. Some fans defend her, calling the speculation unfair and invasive. Others believe her connection is being deliberately avoided in public discussions. And as the debate grows louder, so does the chaos. Viral posts, many unverified, have started shaping public opinion. One widely shared thread claimed, "This isn't just about a test. It's about timing, communication, and things people ignored for too long." Another suggested that the confrontation wasn't sudden at all, but the result of weeks of tension building behind the scenes. Whether true or not, those narratives spread fast. And once they spread, they take on a life of their own. YouTube commentators and gossip channels jumped in almost immediately, breaking down timelines, analyzing interactions, and highlighting supposed inconsistencies. Dramatic thumbnails, bold titles, urgent headlines, each one adding more intensity to a situation that's already spiraling. At the same time, a few voices have tried to slow things down, reminding people that not everything trending online is accurate. That false narratives can move faster than the truth, especially when emotions are involved. But even those warnings haven't stopped the momentum, because uncertainty fuels engagement. The less people know, the more they speculate. The more they speculate, the bigger the story becomes. And now this situation has moved beyond a simple rumor. It has become a cultural moment, a real-time example of how fast narratives can form, evolve, and take over in the digital age. But even with all the noise, all the debate, all the attention, there's one more layer that insiders claim hasn't been fully revealed yet. A final piece, a detail that, if confirmed, could change everything. Because according to whispers still circulating, what the public has seen so far might only be the surface. The real story may still be hidden. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more complicated, another twist emerged. New claims suggest that the DNA test itself, the very thing that sparked this entire situation, may not only be questionable in authenticity, but also misunderstood in context. According to these reports, what's been shared publicly might represent only fragments of a much larger situation, partial information tied to private conversations and events that haven't been revealed. If that's the case, then the confrontation wasn't triggered by one discovery. It was triggered by a series of discoveries. A buildup of moments, questions, realizations. The DNA claim may have been just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. And even more surprising, some insiders suggest that conversations continued after the confrontation. Private discussions, Attempts to explain, attempts to regain control, emotional exchanges that never reached the public eye. But according to those same claims, those conversations didn't fix anything. They made things more uncertain. At the same time, the narrative involving Latto continues to evolve. New rumors suggest her alleged connection may not be as straightforward as it was initially portrayed. Misinterpretations, timeline confusion, fragmented leaks, all of it contributing to a story that may not fully reflect reality. Which means the public could be reacting to something incomplete. Or worse, something partially misunderstood. And then came the moment that reignited everything. A final leaked message, unverified but widely discussed, began circulating in private groups. It hinted that more information could be coming soon. Information that could either confirm everything people suspect or completely dismantle it. The message reportedly suggested one thing above all else. What we've seen so far isn't the full story. And that idea alone has shifted the entire narrative again. Because now, this isn't just about what happened. It's about what hasn't happened yet. What hasn't been revealed. What might still be coming. And as long as that possibility exists, the story stays open. Fans are now questioning everything. Was the DNA claim real? Was the confrontation based on facts or fear? And is there another revelation waiting in the background that could change everything all over again? Right now, there are no clear answers. Only speculation, fragments, anticipation. And if stories like this have proven anything, it's that the biggest twist rarely comes first. It comes when people least expect it. Because when the truth finally does surface, it doesn't arrive quietly. It hits all at once. And when it does, it changes everything. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the DNA test rumors are real? Or has this entire situation been amplified by speculation and unverified leaks? And what's your take on the alleged confrontation involving 21 Savage? Was it justified? Or is there more happening behind the scenes than we're being told? Drop your thoughts below. Because this is one of those stories where every perspective adds another layer, and the conversation is far from over.